I am Eon, and it's finally time for us to look at March 2026 fantasy releases. I know I'm really late in the month. It's Sunday, March the 29th as I record. Let's get into it because we've got a lot to look at. Aether Studios this month is doing Keen Arachnid Caverns in various sizes and shapes, curved corners and curved walls and rocks. These started out with 16 tiles before they reworked them, but they ended up with 26 tiles, as well as open lock versions of those as well. They also have some column basin tops with stalactites and stalagmites. Did everybody learn, like I did in high school, that stalag has G, so ground, and C for the ceiling ones? I think that's pretty much how we all learned it, wasn't it? Columns and stalagmites and so forth. In addition, we see these blended stalags that they have here. Lots of different shapes, lots of different things that you can put around in your various caverns that you explore for your adventurers. Here we also have some Swole bonus caverns as well. These are all new and requests made along the way of updating that kind of got missed production cycles earlier, and no matter the origin, this one was built with a lot of love, they say. Here we have some pretty big curve corners that go by 4x4. What I thought at first was a sci-fi release is actually a good old Dwarven release, a personal vault. Both Dragonbite and open lock versions are included here. There's also the Noble Quarter with some tiles and such. These were originally sculpted for the unreleased Dwarven Treasury set, but really wanted to make the version first to get a handle on what was all available and how best to use it. There's still a lot of Treasury files left to process. This particular personal vault came together very quickly in less than a day. Finished but not shown in the renders are some gold ingots that you can store in that vault. Noble Quarter was one of our favorite sets from last year, but they didn't get nearly enough time with it before production demanded the first release. So they're kind of going back to it and working with that. Boosted it quite a bit. Original release was 26 models. We kicked that up to 41 for the update. There's also some scatter terrain, Horn of Cheer, Horn of Vigil, modern and original, Dwarven versus Stone, and a couple of statues as well. King on Throne, Queen on Throne. Not sure if those are supposed to be miniatures or statues, probably however you want to use them. Aradia Miniatures had a collab with Papunky Creatures with these models here. This is The Ride. One scene, two rides, one producer. Two producers, excuse me. So between Aradia and Papunky, you can get this collab. Arbiter Miniatures is doing Plague Doctors. These are the advanced FDM miniatures that you can print on, like using a 0.2 nozzle on an FDM printer if you so choose. If you want the more detail, here's the resin models that come pre-supported. It's like a femur he's got there, isn't it? And then we have the supportless models that will print, again, so they say supportless, they mean resin supportless, just doesn't need the supports. Archvillain Games is doing Moondance the Sixfold Knight. Here's Eclipsis the Sixfold Knight, a Pale Moon Sphinx and Moonbound Horolgum, Pale Moon Hag and Silthara Eclipse Knight, Tarka the Moon Changer, and Spaz, Moonmire Goblin Infiltrator. Here's a Pale Moon Cultist. Comes in 4 different varieties. Typically, their fantasy releases do 4 releases of these generic models. Well, not generic, but you get the idea. This is an Eclipse Archies. Archies. I'm not sure if that's a hard C or a soft C. Pale Moon Skyrider. So like a giant vampire bat, apparently, is what it looks like to me. Seems pretty happy, though. Artisan Guild is doing Legend of the Vanara Monks. So these cat-like people, here is with Wanakar, Warden of the East on Spiritual Dragon, the Guild Hall exclusive if you subscribe on their website. These are Vanara Monks. Kind of reminds me of Thundercats. These are Spiritual Dragon Riders, and naturally we have to probably have the Spiritual Dragons without their riders. Here's Wanakar, Warden of the East. Notice he's not riding his spiritual dragon here. Gorazin, Guardian of the Dragon Shrine. Here's the pinup model, Vani Dragonclaw. And Zolan, the Elder Spiritual Dragon. This is your epic boss for the month. You also get a few different weapons. You gotta love the fact that the fists, I'm not sure if those are monkey-based or cat-based. To me, they look kind of cat, but they, well, maybe more simian now that I look at them again. And it's, of course, some busts if you back at that tier. Asgard Rising has Viking Berserkers, as well as some large palisades, and these are some sample ways you can assemble them and put them together. We'll throw those over in the terrain video as well. Avatars of War for March has Razor Tusk's Battle Ready Regiment, Beastman Chariot Kit, and Goblin Archer's Battle Ready Regiment. Here are your Razor Tusks, and from the other side, Beastman Chariot Kit, and the Goblin Archers. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Battle Yak Miniatures has the Kingdom of Brood Hollow, the Ancient Cast. We put them here in fantasy, but I may have them over in sci-fi as well, because those look like guns. These are the Brood Gunners. These are the Brood Lancers. And I'm never sure if these are supposed to be fantasy or sci-fi releases. Stagrund Riders. I'll get it eventually. These are the Stagrund War Beasts. And how they get assembled with the several different little faces that they can come with. This is a Monarch molded. And another version with shield. Here's the Awoken Ancient. Pretty cool model there. And a Pale Knight. On top of the remnants of some sort of egg, maybe? This is a Pale Brood Mother. The extra set of hands always creep me out on models like this. She comes in a couple of variant figures, and there are some custom bases that you see here as well. This is the Abyssal Basin, so maybe the bottom of the ocean. The Beholder Miniatures is continuing One Sin for Seven Kingdoms. Pretty awesome release. There you see everything on the right. Here's Meldar, the Lich King. 5 Undying Warriors with Spear and Shield. Here's 5 Undying Warriors with Sword and Shield. An Undying Legion Warrior Command Group. Astari Dynasty Mountains Tribes Command Group. And a Peasant Militia Archer Command Group. The Astari Dynasty Primeval Guardian, and I think this is actually a pretty big model. It's hard to tell by himself here. And then the Black Horde Goblins have a Cave Horror Madness. Wow. Belksasar 3D print is doing Son of Doom 3. Here we see the Pharaohness of the Skeletal Dragon. Heard some people recently call it skeletal. I always say skeletal. I've never heard it said otherwise in America, at least where I'm around. Lady of the Bound Souls. And I think some of these might come with alternative sculpts too, but we don't have them on here to show. Daughter of the Withered. Riders of the Eternal Steed. I guess eternal because once dead it can't die again, right? Whip of the Cursed Sand. She comes in a couple of different sizes. Sentinels of the Sarcophagus. Custodian of the Sacred Sarcophagus, and an Obelisk. Bestarium Miniatures has the Penitent Crusade. This is kind of an interesting release here. You see all the various models here. I'm going to throw those over more in the modern video. I think that's where I put them, because they're kind of like the alternative history-ish, but there's what you get with that. Bite the Bullet Studios has Iconic Heroes Part 2. I think a viewer pointed out to me in the preview video that these are based around Pathfinder hero classes. Here's the throwback that comes in March. Here we have a half-orc ranger Vindicator and a half-elf Magus. I like that sword. This is a gnome summoner, and what he has summoned is an Eidolon. I guess I'm saying that right. Or like a rooster snake. Here's a human shifter. She reminds me of Sorceress from Masters of the Universe. And human cleric. Here's a human thaumaturge and an elf rogue. Her eyes are colored very interestingly. Here's a human medium and a human blood rager. Elf psychic and a gnome druid. And we have the exotic model as a human witch. Seems like she comes with, I believe that's a fox. I'm trying to figure out if that was a dog, but I think it's a fox. Blackcrest Miniatures has transmuters, which kind of seem to be almost robots. So we might throw, I think I threw those over in the sci-fi video too. But these could just be mechanical constructs, aka like gnome creations or Warforged sorts. So I'm not exactly sure where to put those. Cast and Play is doing the Rotting Crown. This is a good set of models if you want like some kind of town guard sort of models. Here's the Mad King and the Queen. She does not look happy with him either, does she? The Young Prince. Man, everybody's yelling in the royal family, aren't they? And the Court Jester. You got to get it up, man. You're not getting them happy. Here's the Elite Royal Guard. I really like those knights. Those are some clean looking knights. Here's the Princess. She is not yelling, but she does not seem happy either. Here's the Royal Advisor. What is he looking so smug about? And some Royal Priests. They could be a little iffy too. Here's the Militia General and the Hound Master. He's seen better days. Here is a War Beast and an Executioner. Claudio Casini Art in March is releasing all of these models here. I didn't really have time to pull apart all their different models, so we're just going to look at this one. I apologize for the quality of the image. It's the best I could do, and we'll move along. Claybeast Creation is continuing with, well, no, I think this is something new. This is trolls, it looks like. I'm not sure what exactly they call them. I believe this is a Death Jaws. Looks like a giant croc with a troll on top. A Predatroll. Okay. And Tribes Tusks Squad. So multiple trolls. They also, here's a couple of close-ups of what some of those models look like instead of them all being on top of each other. And for the throwback, there's the Gorious Overlord from Crypt Nightmares. Claymore Miniatures has a Clutch of Hope. Looks like we're doing Draconians. They did not put titles with these models. Sometimes their images have the titles of the models already included. Unfortunately, they do not, and I just did not have the time to go through and figure out if they even had a list and what they were. So if you have an interest in Dragonborn, Dragonkin, Draconians, kobold sorts, because I think some of these are actually kobolds. It's hard to tell with the scaling when they're by themselves like this. This is a good month for you. Cobra Mode has, this is the release along with their throwback. I don't know why their throwback image is usually a whole lot bigger, but it is. This is a Torix, a Dinovian explorer. Very interesting tale on that character. Here's Lervesa, a Dinovian mage. Parasaurolophus, or something like that. It's been a while since I've really looked at that word. Here's Mortivex, a Dinovian necromancer. Kind of like his little hat. It really completes the look. And here's Vex, Tal, and Yelgar, Dinovian warriors, and some Dinovian undead cultists over on the right. They probably work with Mortivex, don't they? I really like the flavor of this month, Cobra Mode. It reminds me of Dinotopia. Or some other stuff. What was it? Earth Dawn that had, I think, like dinosaur humanoids. There's some bases as well as a couple of pieces of scatter terrain. Crippled God Foundry has the Gorgon Dominion. So here we have a Thessal Hydra, a Gorgon, some Grimlocks, and Calith Madrasa, the Medusa. She actually has a name, not just Medusa. Interesting. Rella Greyvein, the human fighter, and a Sightless Cultist. Another Sightless Cultist, and yet another one. And another one. Sister Yelene, a Sightless Cultist leader. Sothrax Yuan-Ti Sorceress, and a Stonebound Sentinels. They really actually look like stone too. There's also the Gorgon Dominion terrain pieces. Obviously these could be printed off and put in lots of different ways. And they also have some petrified victims that you can put as well around. I had some friends that recently went to Italy and they talked about Pompeii. It reminds me of that. Custom Miniature Maker has Village Outskirts. Wow, I can't read this afternoon. Sorry. We have the Overgrown Path, Village Building Wall, Babylene Brook, Overgrown Arc Cobble, and a Mossy Shingle Roof. So there are all the texture rollers that Custom Miniature Maker is known for every month. In addition, they have the Split Shack, along with a village notice board, some crossroads signs, and outskirts gate arch. They really put a lot of detail into this split shack, including the little mouse up on the rafter. And they're very proud of it, and they have a right to be, in my opinion. There's also a lot of other detail like the bed and the chest and so forth that we just don't have time to look at. Go check it out. They also have a couple of village windows and a village door that you can use with their texture rollers like this in order to complete the look. They also put out mechs and crabs, and while not sci-fi, I will include it here just for the sake of completion, because that just makes me happier. And here we have a grass and weeds roller that they've added. So they actually added a bonus roller this month. They also have some Spartan grass and weeds bases too. Now, I did a short video the other day on Davale Games, Davale Games, because their release this month was a no-brainer for me, personally. You basically have the entire Fellowship of the Ring here, along with some other models. Granted, they're painted, they look beautiful. I love these models, but I wanted these for myself, so I had to subscribe. Bromley the Dwarf, along with Boromund and his horn as he summons help. Here's Ganaeth the Storm. Here's Piprin Samuel, Merrick and Foreign. Here's Bragrish on foot, an exclusive for the subscribers. Arachnazol, Queen of the Deep, along with a little bit of her brood. Here's Varagon and Lethalus the Prince. I guess he's pretty lethal, isn't he? Lethal is as lethal does, or something like that. These are autumn logs, mushrooms, and stumps. Just some generic scatter terrain to put around your table. And an old tower, fallen and ancient watchtower. Just a really nice release. I can't emphasize enough that it's worth checking out. Deathpunk Studio has some kobolds. We have a Kobold Destroyer, Kobold Trap Master, Kobold Assassin, and Kobold Bomber. Dice Heads, I wasn't really able to pull up what they have. This is the Laughing Canopy. A lot of Aztec or Mayan themed releases this month. DM Stash is doing the Hell at Heaven's Gate. Here is the Impossible Room, which is the piece of terrain there. Here we see Arya the Faithful, a Tiefling Sorceress, and Bodge the Ravenous, a Gluttony Devil. Sarian the Inevitable, Angel of Death, and a Cherubim, Gatekeeper of Silden. Erdirian, a Father of Truth and Justice, and Idol Heliath, Harbinger of Pestilence, Kagari Soulheart, Paladin of the Great Sun, Luxuria of the Second, Devil of Lust and Hatred, Normanos, the Flesh Reaper, the Plagueborn, Plague Carriers, Leopold the Ascendant, Justice Reborn, and Vitria the Prismatic Angel. There's actually a different set of wings that she has as well, but I wasn't able to include them here. I love the renders and the idea of printing those in that colored resin. Solaria the Judge comes as a bust as well, and without wings. The Traveling Jack is a reborn trickster devil. Tyrius the Reborn is an angel of Iridian. Valoris the Unscathed, an immortal warrior, and Verathos, warden of Sieldon. The Dragon Trapper's Lodge has the Tomb of Ramen Ka and the Cephalomorph Empire, which we're going to stick over in the sci-fi video. So, which is unusual. Dragon Trappers doesn't do that much sci-fi, but I'm pretty sure those are. For the Tomb of Ramen Ka, we have Ramen Ka. We have Amutek, the Wanderer, and a Sphinx. Nick O'Frazier and Yasamin, Servant of the Genie. I wonder who Nick was inspired by. Being facetious, of course. Jazir, Loyal Medjai, and Avatar of the River God. After watching Moon Knight, it makes more sense. Avatar of the Scorpion God and Host of the Entombed. I never knew my Egyptian gods as well as I would have liked. Giant Scarabs and Scions of the Scorpion. Tomb Guardians and Serpopards. That's terrifying. It's a serpent and a leopard mix, I guess. Mummies and Glass Watchers. Podogryphimus and Canoptic Constructs. They come with human heads, wolf heads, monkey heads, hippo heads, or eagle heads. Dragon's Lake Miniatures has more ogres for us this month. We have Flesh Rippers and their command group. We have some Grotlings. Not all are ogres. Here's a Grotlings command group and Saberjaws. We have a Thunder Wrath and the Insatiable Ones. Another Insatiable one, and a Chaos Launcher Grotling. I guess it's launching Grotlings. Duncan Shadow has Raccoon Folk Multipart. Several various heads you can put on your Raccoon Folk. He also has some Raccoon Folk that have been pre-posed. So if you really like these models, you just print them off as is, and you don't have to worry with assembling them. There's also a couple of Raccoon Folk Champions. And some wagons, too. Here's one without the tailgate. There's also some basic terrain ruins. And for the 15mm line, we have some Plague Knights. These are some flies. These are fly riders. I wasn't exactly sure what everything was here. And some demonic beasts, and yeah. Dungeon Classics has a Copper Dragon Wormling. A Beholder, a young Copper Dragon. Grimlocks. It's the second set of Grimlocks this month. Kobold Warriors. Female cultists and male cultists, all with sickles. Dungeon Dog has shown this is the March release. You have the Insatiable, a boar demon. A bust of a Balor. And some abyssal ghouls. Is that flames on the end of its tongue? Echo Art Studios has Ashes of Heaven. And again, due to time, I wasn't really able to pull a lot of their releases, but that's what you get there kind of at a glance. And obviously some more stuff beyond this too. Epic Miniatures for update number 1 was Deep Dive. There's a steam tugboat, SteamTech's newest invention, will revolutionize water travel, and a treasure diver. There are hundreds of sunken treasure ships out there. If you can avoid the occasional kraken, it's profitable to dive for that. For even deeper dives, the more problems you'll get, you have a deep sea diver. Only the deepest treasures are still looted yet. Fishfolk Warrior are very difficult to communicate. They worship a strange water deity they call Dagon. Merfolk Classic, just some classic looking merfolk for your adventures. We have a Hammerfish Pirate. His eye positions are not a disadvantage. They allow him to reduce his blind spots as much as possible while he fights. We also have a pirate crew, a bunch of different pirates, such as the captain and an apprentice. And the apprentice again, I'm not sure why that's in here twice. Gunner, maniac, and a show-off. A striker, a monkey tamer, quartermaster, cook, and a cutthroat. This is a sea tyrant pirate. Lost some eyes during his raids, but it's no problem if you have that many. This is a deep siren. She was beautiful last night, I swear, said that drunk pirate that almost drowned. Sea merchant is someone has to sell all the goods that they get from those sunken ships. Look at all his goods for sale. This is a gladiator merfolk, mighty warrior of the merfolk. Fighting him in his domain is probably a bad idea. When I say all this stuff, folks, by the way, I'm reading their descriptions. Catfish folk. This fish folk is not what I expected when you told me about a mighty warrior of the sea, said a captain that got catfished. Oh gosh, that was a terrible pun, and I'm bad if I'm saying that. Pirate Island girl. The pirate island has many interesting residents that don't fit anywhere else in the world. Lion folk captain. He wants to be the king of the pirates. Lions do lion things. For update number 2, we have Magical Library. This is Magical Library Scatter, a bunch of different books and furniture that you can put around. And obviously, if it's a library, we need some bookshelves and windows and all sorts of decorative items to put around. Here's an old wizard. With age comes wisdom, or so they say, and we all know that wisdom is magical power. This is a Nothic baby. Magical library without a Nothic is like a tavern without troublemakers. Weird claim. Here are 3 various wizards. These can be used as player characters or as NPCs. Then we have a Tressum cat, popular but mischievous familiar for magic-wielding adventurers. Basically, a cat with wings. Here's a blink dog. If you're not a cat person, how about a dog that can blink out of reality? It's really cool here to see that the blink dog is coming through its portal. This is just a classic witch. Anyone slightly interested in magic is typically attracted to the magical library. The amount of hidden knowledge is irresistible, even for a witch. Magical snakes. I said multiple times, no snakes allowed in the library, said the head librarian. Then we have a Nothic knight, a Nothic that's obsessed with stories about knights and honor. This is an Arcanoloth, fiendish record keeper that acts as the head librarian. Some say he has secret connections with the Blood War, but those are only rumors. And then we have the Homunculus gang, life forms that were magically created to serve for eternity. It might not be ethical, but you don't expect the prideful wizards to clean their own mess themselves, do you? So lots of different variations for whatever purpose you want. Then we have a Transmuter Wizard, the creator and current master of the Homunculus gang. He might sell you 1 or 2 for the right price too, or maybe you'd be more interested in perhaps a large shield guardian. The Magnus Opus is defending a frail wizard while he shoots fireballs at you. How it was created, that's not important. What's important is that it will crush your enemies. Flesh of Gods Miniatures has the Iron Sworn Brotherhood, Armored Warlords, Dread Knights, Siege Beasts, and War Heroes. For the gargantuan enemy, there's the Tetramorph of Victory. For heroes and NPCs, we have Garland, Knight of Splendor, in a couple of different versions, Sigurd, Knight of Wrath, in a couple of different versions, Shelley, a couple of War Mages, and Master of War, and an Eldritch Crusader. I feel like some of these are inspired by various anime characters, but I'm not entirely sure. Large and human enemies, we have Lord Fengur, Iron Sword Ruler, Cursed Chariot, and Effigy Bull, Iron Sworn Cyclops, Effigy Eagle, Effigy Angel, and Effigy Lion. Medium enemies, we have Leonidas, Iron Sworn Raider, Voldan, Iron Sworn Jester, Dread Knights, and looks like all the rest of them, I guess, are Dread Knights. We have a couple of busts, one of Garland and one of Sigurd. For the throwback, we have a Flame Warden, Smoldering Revenant, and Clotted Beast. Oh, I do have some pictures that are a little bit more up close of a few of these models. I put all this together so quickly I forgot. Gamescape 3D is looking at hills this month. We'll look at more of this over in the terrain video. Ghamak has put out their release, which is a couple of different factions. These are the Silent Fang regiments that form from the finest hunter of the Workala tribes. Expert marksmen adorn their towering bows with the trophies of past kills. In addition, you have the Merc Howls. Small packs, these are ferocious predators, move in perfect harmony with the hunter's tactics, striking where the enemy is weakest. From the Exiled Courts, we have Blood Daughters, regiment of ancient vampire noble women who have traded courtly intrigue for the brutal discipline of the battlefield. Heavy plate armor. Darkened by centuries of war, they march in an unbreakable line with the heart of many undead hosts. Very unique group. And then here is Azrakan's Brides. Known collectively, these vampire consorts are far more than mere adornments to their lord's court. Each was selected for a rare and dangerous talent. Unmatched martial prowess, mastery of dark sorcery, supernatural speed, or an uncanny gift for manipulation and intrigue. Goetia Miniatures has Keepers of the Veil. And this is a little bit outside the norm enough that I put it over here in fantasy. Here's the Cursed Orphanage. And the, this is the whole set, sorry. That's the High Mistress Jacovia and Keeper of the Void. Tumoral Deformity and Void Spawn. Couple of Wielder of the Blade. And another one, along with another type of Void Spawn. And this fella did not have a name. Good Freakin' Miniatures has Crown of the Six Claws. There are some Flint Claw Dragons, Maldris, Skyrun Dragon, and Pyrex Dragons. Goonmaster Games is doing Tiny Tarsiers. And for the throwback, I can't remember if it's the Myconids or the, I think it's the hedgehog, the groundhogs, the hedgehogs, porcupines. One of those, porcupines. Over here we see some various basing bits, as they often do. There's also several different hand signs that you can use. So there's a lot that goes into all of that, in all honesty. There's also a couple of different weapon options and even a nice street light. Great Grimoire has Tainted Heart's Bloom. There's a lot going on in these images. Grumpy Demon has a Leech Knight on a Demon's Steed. It's how many teeth do you have? Haito has Arthurian-inspired miniatures this month with Black Mora and Cormag the Horned. I'm actually not familiar with those characters. There's Cormag and Mora the Black. But here's Sir Gawain and Sir Gingalain. Sir Lancelot with Helmet or Not. It's a really nice helmet. Mordred and Uther Pendragon. Virides and Witch of Berkeley. And then there was this model here. I'm assuming this is the Lady of the Lake or something like that, but I don't know. Highlands Miniatures is continuing with Sons of Marduk. A lot of this is more of the Hobgoblin side of the Sons of Marduk. You can see the elephant here, War Elephant, along with its Hobgoblin War Crew. Here we have a Great Sorcerer of Marduk on Lamassu. Here we have a Ballista. Some Hobgoblin Spearmen, and with shields. Here's a Hobgoblin Hero mounted on Wolf. And here we have just a Marduk Commander. Another Commander. And another Commander. This one I'm going to assume is some sort of sorcerer, but I don't see the listing here. He does come available also on a Marduk Bull. He can be foot on or mounted. He's a sorcerer of Marduk, sorry. And then there's a Hobgoblin Chariot with crew. I did not have time to label these, and again, apologies there. M3 Dicion is doing underwater adventures. Kind of reminds me of Avatar. I like the vibrant colors of their renders here. I believe these are the 10 Lady Deeps. And this is probably Sea Dragons with Riders. And this is probably the Lady First one, is what they call it. And some of the more Lady Deeps as well. Some of them are submerged in the water, and some are coming up. It reminds me of those, of the movie, I can't remember. It's based the city of like 1,000 different races. Valerian. It reminds me of the race from that had the little pearl creature. Kyousheneko Miniatures. Valerian, I think, was the name. I don't know. Anyway, Gaelic Wood Elves, Dear Sisters on Foot. Louve 3D has really nice models here. I like these. They remind me of Redwall. They remind me of Burros and Badgers. And I don't know. I grew up watching Disney's Robin Hood. I like anthropomorphic animals. And so here we see a giant blue jay that has a chipmunk rider. And here we see the chipmunk and a shrew. It says a parachute chipmunk is what they're calling it. This is a scribe shrew. And then we have a shrew rider that is riding on this type of bird. I don't think we have them in North Carolina where I am. It's called a hoopoe. H-O-O-P-O-E. Hoopoe, hoopoi. If we have them around here, I've never noticed them. Labyrinth Models has Dark Elf Infantry. We have Dark Elf Crossbowmen. Dark Elf Modular Kit. Dark Elf Command Group. With the drums, and there are options for the banner as well, but I did not have a chance to include those. Last Sword Miniatures here's the entire release if you get both sides of their release. For the Adventurers, there's the Wrath of Aetius. And for the Bannermen, there's Swords for Hire. Wolf Priest, Witch Hunter, High Kingdom Standard Bearer, Varn's Claws, Black Coats, and Birdmen. It's kind of all over the place, isn't it? Loot Studios is doing Celtic Dawn in March, which is almost over. Here's everything you get with Celtic Dawn. Here's the Morrigan, goddess of war, Cernunnos, god of nature, Louve, god of justice, the Dagda, great father, and Brigid, goddess of the hearth. These are your heroes. For your enemies, you have Baylor of the Evil Eye, Fardarig, young unicorn. It looks a lot like the last unicorn, from what I can recall, kind of, sort of. That, or maybe I'm thinking of Uni from the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. It's kind of spindly. Cancanig, Bugani, Fomorian Spawn, Grunt, Selkie, Fomorian Charger, and Bonanok, Battlefield Spectre. So a lot of just mythological creatures here. That's pretty cool. Unfinished Monument, Throne of Lug, and so this is your environment, very scattered. You don't need me to read all of this to you. For the busts, we have Cernunnos, god of nature, Brigid, goddess of the hearth, young unicorn, and a Selkie. And for the prop, we get Lug's spear. Luke's spear. I do apologize if I'm butchering some of those. I don't know the Gaelic gods either. Lost Kingdom Miniatures has Legion of Skulls Volume 3. Y'all are in luck. These are not labeled with titles, so I don't know what to call these. These look like some sort of werewolves. Wolfmen. Very interesting helmets on these pieces of armor. But I guess with the snout, you do have to have it be a little bit more protruded. Low-level Encounter has an interesting release with Web of the Slave Lords. These are the Neogi, which are technically spacefaring creatures that have crash-landed. Here's the Neogi Master and the Neogi Adult. Neogi Adult, a second version, and Neogi Halfling. Miyagi, Neogi. These are hatchlings, and then they're crushed ship. I'm going to throw these over on the sci-fi release as well because, you know, these are spacefaring creatures. It could definitely be used there too. Magori Miniatures, I believe, are new to my videos. Forget why I put them in here. I think I just came across them. So I like to always, when people tell me about these things, I usually try to keep records of that. Here we see some Magori Miniatures. Looks to be like a vampire with some zombies. And some various noblemen over on the right. Maybe they're hunting vampires or zombies. And then some sort of giant with a giant fish, actually. Mammoth Factories is doing the Tooth Fairy this month. I really like the fairies, though, that they have. Now, the Tooth Fairy is absolutely gruesome. Like, it almost looks like it's been stitched together with this insectoid look to it. But then we start looking at the Bambolins, which are apparently kind of like fairy dragons of sorts. Not particularly familiar with that type of fae. Here's a Flower Matron and a Shadow Leaf Fairy. And now we're starting to get into what I would consider to be more classic fairies. Flower Sprites. Knight of Petals. A couple of different poses there. A Glade Minstrel and an Osseous Knight. Seems to be full of thorns. We have a couple of busts, such as the Knight of Petals and the Flower Sprite. I'm a sucker for fairies. Those types of fairies. Mantic Vault has put out this release here. A little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of fantasy. We'll focus on just the fantasy here with the Salamander Ancients upgrades. Zakarli Hero Li Lung. And the Zerkali Dog Heads, which was a bonus release, released not at the beginning of the month. Mini Monster Mayhem is doing Monster Badness Volume 5. And here you can kind of see a look at everything. And it's not just for time's sake. This is pretty much the only image I really saw and was able to include. But these are some pretty interesting monsters. MOM Miniatures in March is doing Infernal Dwarves. You have Centaurs and Slaves. Hobgoblins riding wolves, and hobgoblin archers riding wolves. Backstabbers and disciples with swords. Infernal rocket launcher and infernal bolt thrower. So very similar release in some ways to Labyrinth Models. Not Labyrinth Models, Highlands Miniatures, excuse me. Monstrous Encounters has Dark Crusaders with the War God add-on. So here is the add-ons that you get to add on to that. Undead get a Skeleton Chariot. I have to love just the classic look of these models. Maybe it's because I grew up with this stuff. And then the Dark Crusaders Starter Army. Lord, a Hero, a Sorcerer, Dark Warriors, Marauders, Hellhounds, and I lost track of where we were. Look at all the things. Northern Crusades Miniatures giving us this preview. I'll stick this over in the historical model video too. One-page rules. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be fantasy and sci-fi or one or the other, but they kind of fit both places depending. Here's the big legendary model for this month. And for Age of Fantasy, I would say. For the Change Demons, and I think again a lot of these are re-releases of previous models along with some new stuff. These have various weapon options. Gotta love the musician over there with the command group. Like he's got his own little portable harpsichord of sorts. Or organ. And then man, look at the artillery on these guys. See, I feel like this is more sci-fi here, but it could be fantasy. There's some custom bases and game aids and objectives. For the Lust Demons, I believe, looks like some sort of champions. I find it interesting they have chariots just like the other one does. But if you'll notice, the way they're holding their hands, they look like they're holding blasters of sorts. And again, I don't know if some of these are sci-fi, some of these are fantasy, and a lot of times these things get carried over. Like those look like guns. I mean, they have barrels. But gunpowder exists too, so... And obviously, this is a huge model. I'm glad they put one there for comparison. It's like, oh, okay, that's a big guy. It's not a small weapon at all. In addition, there is these terrain here and some custom bases that seem to be just put in extra as well. Wasn't entirely sure about those. Papal 3D has Southland Pirates. These are pirate crossbowmen with some pretty neat looking shields. Pirate elites, specifically Delgado, Hamadir, and Muzan. Some pirate warriors, various weapon options, obviously. Pirate spearmen, not just for fishing, right? Pirate ballista. And of course, all this fighting, there's going to end up with a shipwreck and a bunch of dead pirates, as well as an orc ballista crew and a condor ballista crew. But I don't know, Papal always surprises me with the quality that they put out every month. Parasite Collectibles has the chain bounded, and these are very much like some other models, sometimes like, this looks kind of like a construct, this could be sci-fi, but I believe this is magical. Primal Collectibles is doing King Chronicles of Excalibur. I was going to say King Arthur, but, you know, same story pretty much. There's Lucius Tiberius and Sir Gawain. Where's the Green Knight? There's Sir Yuan and Oberon, a werewolf and Taliesin. Okay, so the classic Celtic bard. I'm just now recently become familiar with that character. And Red Knight and Sir Constantine. Taliesin. I think the Daily Wire is doing a series based around the Pendragon cycle, which is that series. Print Your Monsters has Worms Subterranean Terrors. You can see kind of everything here. Classic purple worm, for example. And here's another render, and it's only $2 for all of these subterranean worms. Printed Legends has Undead Fairy Tales with Zombie Fae, Zombie Corn, Sporlings, Grounded Zombie Fae, and a Corrupted Forest Guardian. This would have been a good October release. Print and Paint Miniatures for March is doing Treefolk Defense. There's the throwback rewards. And the $1 tier, you get that model there. Here are some of your tree folk. And their models always have a distinctive look to them because they're designed to be printed on FDM without needing supports, usually. The Printing Goes Ever On is doing their own unique thing, and I'm interested in this. And apparently they're starting a sci-fi try pretty soon. Curious to see how that looks. Here's Season 1, Part 3 of the Damani Republic. I think there's 4 parts to go. Well, there's 4 parts in total, so one more after this. Here's the Wargaming tier. You see Damani Republic Crossbowmen, and Republic Knights that are mounted, and Knights on foot. There are some very unique sculpted bases that you can use for your models. Here's the Catapult, along with crew, War Wagon with Crossbowmen, and a War Wagon with Ballista. For the RPG tier of Printing Goes Ever On, they're continuing with the Domani with Ettercaps and Chitons, Troglodytes, a Siege Turtle, obviously. I don't think you could miss that fella. Along with some RPG characters that you could play here, there, as good guys or bad guys as needed. There's also some Siege Scatter Terrain props that come with the RPG tier as well. Oh, they put a horse's head on there. That's really disturbing. Punga Miniatures recently relaunched their fantasy line. Here we have the Jade Sea Corsairs this month. Ogres and samurai uniforms. Always something to that. Here's some classic crossbowmen. Rescale Miniatures is doing Deepwood Hollow. This is the Hollow Eclipse. Black Dragon's Hunt. You have to love the fact that it's eaten a predator. So who's the apex predator in this environment? The Adult Sapphire Dragon. That's just a mean looking dragon. A Hollow Vulture. Violet Fungus Titan. Hollow Blade Crawlers. And Hollow Blades. RPG Figures has a Mantis Wizard for their fantasy release this month. I have to like his little glasses. Signum Workshop, I think I had the wrong set for them before listed, and I apologize for that. There was a couple of things I had to fix when I was going through doing the videos, preparing them. Behemoth Mountains Clan is what they have listed for March, and that's not what I had before. So I do apologize if I have misled anybody. Things sometimes change, and sometimes it's hard to understand what the people are doing, or I'm just in a hurry. That's probably more likely. Sordane Publishing has the Demon Pit. We have Dragonborn Expedition Leaders and Queen Merilith, Baelor and Hezrao, Pit Fiends, and Chasmi. I think that's how you say that. I'm not familiar with that. And Ferric. It looks to me like a throwback figure probably, but I'm not sure. Stormborn Collectibles usually just puts out one model, but man, it's a nice model. This is the Naga. Conan would not be amused. STL Miniatures has a very interesting release this month. It's a little bit outside their norm, but it matches their VHS Kickstarter they recently did, with basically a story that just never ends and all the various characters that come from that. So if you know about a type of story that never ends, then you might be familiar with some of the models that you see here in these characters. It brings back a lot of memories. I need to go back and rewatch this movie. There's also a little bit of terrain to go along with all of this. And finally, one more character. Very highly requested set of models. That was the monthly release for STL Miniatures. Terrain Essentials was doing Pirates Shipwreck. So let's look at the entire collection here. There's the Shipwreck, along with a back view of it. Some various debris, crow's nests, scatterboxes, and so forth, as well as some various weapons that can be thrown about here and there and everywhere too. Threat Factory has shown Scoot. Tiles from the Crypt has Corrupted Catacombs, Modular Dungeon Kit, Titanforge Studios is doing Ursa Empire for their Wargaming release. You can see here this dragon-like creature either comes with or without wings, with rider or without. Here we have, of course, giant bears with a couple of different riders on top of that. Here we have another fella with a giant warhammer on a Clydesdale sort of horse. And here he is not mounted. Some other sorcerer sort of characters as well. And some bears pulling a sled with a cannon. Here we have some cavalry. Looks like a command group. Some guys with swords and guys with sword and axe and shield. And then for the RPG corner, we have Titans of Adventures. We have this lady here. She seems to be some sort of wizard with a familiar of some sort and various weapon options. Here we have a bardic character with either his lute as a weapon or some swords or staff. And then we have another character here. I forget exactly what he's supposed to be. Probably a rogue. Then we have a couple of angelic sort of enemies to be used here. They come as a diorama set, which I thought was pretty neat. But there's also a witch and some sort of like animated tree. There's some bases here too that we can look at. TPK Lab has given this release for the month, depending on what tier you back at. You get the High Priest of the Swarm revealed, and as a bust, priestess probably, High Priest transformed, Leader of the Swarm Minister pose, as well as an ambush pose. There's also a destroyed tower for scenery as well. Trader's Galaxy sometimes does a fantasy release, and this month is the Necromancer's Apprentice, along with a few undead skeletons. Triskelion Games, with the Living board game, has Red Mist Adventures. You see all of these models along with some various modules to go along with it. And they listed this out earlier with Blood Leeches, Blood Crucibles, Veil Ossuary Wolves, and so forth. Charlie Factory, or Tixarli Factory, has some fantasy elven housing. Waywictus Miniatures is doing Demon Hunters this month, along with, looks like 3, well, this is like a vampire looking character. I'm not sure what these other 2 are. I don't know. Very interesting uniqueness to those models. This is the Demon Hunters. I believe these are the pre-posed ones. So they come as is. And then these are the modular sets that come with lots of different options. Some of these are torsos that are all together, and sometimes you can mix and match these as you see fit. There's the Waywictus model, along with a few special weapons that they like to include too. Velrock, for their fantasy release, has done Elf Guards. Wargames Atlantic is still catching up for the month. For fantasy, that's what we're going to focus on. We have Dire Wolves, Traditional Owlbears, and a work in progress still are Mages on Foot. And looks like it comes with multiple head options there. Warp Miniatures has March of the Mushrooms Part 1. Westphalia had given us a look at some halflings earlier in the month. But they also added another preview of some Sky Wars, as well as Heroic X Team. These seem to be inspired by something. White Angel Miniatures in March is doing Lizard Men. We have a Slippery Lizard Shaman Skycrawler, 5 heavy slippery lizards, 3 fire lizards plus their crew, and 2 Triceratops, well, more like, I don't know, Quintotops plus crew. White Werewolf Tavern has Call of the Drowned. We have the Drowned Mother Diorama. This is a heroic scale piece. We have Abyssal Tyrants. My, with the teeth you have. A Brine-Born Prophet. Depth Horrors set. Mermaid set. Mermen set. Water Elementals set. And then some busts, such as a mermaid, merman, the drowned mother, of course, along with a bit of scattered terrain, such as an anchor, a chest, and some coral. And folks, it's just over an hour, but that is going to be our fantasy look for the month of March. I'm sure I've skipped something with me being so late in the month. I do apologize. I should be a little bit more on schedule with April. I don't know that we'll get an April preview done, but we'll definitely be looking at April sooner than I did with March. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.